Okay, folks, we've got this box ready to glue on the bottom, and I'm going to do the top after that. But this bottom is a piece I've chosen, and it actually has a hole going all the way through it. This little black thing is a knot right here. You can see it on the GoPro, and it goes through all the way. But I kind of like the look of it. It's right in the center, and it's, you know, if I can just get it filled up, I think it will be just fine. And it's quite dark. So instead of making some wood filler with oak so that it matches this lighter color right here, I'm going to make some wood filler that matches that darker material right there. And I actually did this yesterday. I didn't show you, but we had some gaps in these splines right here, and I filled it in with wood filler that was from this little piece of walnut right here. So I'm going to use some walnut dust, and I'm going to show you how we make our own wood filler to be able to mix with glue and match the wood perfectly. So I think that this will match this dark knot perfectly once I get that filled in. I've got a little stick that I'm going to stir it with, and this is the little tray that I'm going to put the glue and the wood dust in here. But the first thing I'm going to do is create some sawdust, or create some sanding dust with this walnut. And this is 80 grit sandpaper. So I'm going to get quite a bit. I have to put this piece of MDF on top of this table because I don't want to lose that sawdust through the holes in this table. So that's what that's there for. It's hard to tell how much is enough. I'm going to make plenty of it because it doesn't take much extra work or time to create a nice little pile of sawdust to use. And I think I've discovered that I need to mix it with a little bit more glue than I did on times previously, because the sawdust will show through that just fine. That should be enough. And so what I'm going to do is get a little spatula here, and I'm going to use that to pick it up and put it inside this little container where I can mix it together. No waste, except for that part right there. All right, now I've got some glue. It's regular wood glue, and I'm going to spread this glue out a little bit. It's all over here on the edge, and I'm going to stir this glue in here like this. Look how it's trying to avoid that. Rather than using the spatula to mix it up with, I think this wood stick will be less obtrusive, and it will be able to get into that sawdust. So I want every piece of sawdust mixed with some glue there. It's kind of like mixing flour and making dough. You had to get all the flour wet before it turns into a nice ball that you can knead and all that kind of stuff. And I'm assuming that that's similar in this particular case. I've got a lot of glue on the stick, so I can roll the stick to kind of get the glue off of it and then go back into it. The corner works well as a way to kind of capture that sawdust. I think I need a little bit more glue because I think I want it to be wetter than I've tried before. I want it to be really sticky, so it's never going to come out And when I smooth it down with a planer and sandpaper or whatever I use to get it planed down, I've got a lot of extra dry dust over here, so I need to pull that into the mix and get it mixed up in there. And that looks good and sticky and the right color too. So here's the piece, and I've got both sides have got something to do on this. Let me start with this smaller side right here. So I'm gonna use this to put a little bit of dust in there, and I'll take the plane and kind of use that to press it down in there. And that plane, I use the spatula to press it down in there. Now I get on the other side of here, and I'll mix some more of this glue and sawdust mixture in here, twisting the stick around to kind of get it off of it, and trying to rub it down into the crevice there. Now, like I said, oak before. Well, I said this before, that oak has a real open grain, so all these grains are open, and I really don't want to get that filled up with walnut glue too much. I want to stay right here in the spot that I'm working on. Now, what I want to do is let that dry long enough to harden up. Look, it came off on here. Harden up some. That'll be about maybe 10 minutes from now, where I can then come in with my chisel plane and plane it off very carefully. It'll be hard enough to resist coming off, but I can still peel off a layer with that chisel plane. And so I'm going to pause all these videos in the meantime. Okay, that took me just long enough to get this tray cleaned up. This is a little silly tray. It's called SILI tray. It's made out of silicone rubber, and it comes clean when the glue is wet, and it also comes clean when the glue is dry and hard as a rock. You just bend it and the glue pops out. Good piece of tool to get. And then this is a little painter's spatula that I use. What I'm gonna do now is show you where I've kind of tested it to see whether it's ready to start removing the excess on here. And I'm going to put my magnifying glasses on, and you can look at it through the GoPro here. You see this little curl of material that I used to get this chisel plane. I'm using my magnifying glass because I want to be sure that I'm not leaving any voids inside the deep part of the hole right there using this chisel plane. And I knew it needed to be a certain ready stage, so I think it's fine. It's going to continue to curl up, and I'm just swiping back and forth as I go across this. And according to the magnifying glass, that looks fairly smooth right there. Now, there's still quite a bit of material left. I've gotten the big part of it right there off, and I may try to get a little bit more here. All right, so that's ready for sanding, basically. And so this side is also ready to do the same thing. And I'm still leaving these magnifying glasses on because I want to look at it from time to time. It really wouldn't be a problem because I can always make some more. But why do it if you don't have to? Okay, at least the holes are filled up. I think there may be one little tiny little void right there that I'm just going to leave in there. No big deal. And when I sand up, some sawdust will get stuck in that void anyway. And these are nice magnifying glasses. I hang them on the wall. I had to make this little plywood holder for them to fit down inside here because I hang them upside down like this. And I didn't want dust collecting on that because those needed to be clean all the time. So I'll put those up with that. And by the way, this little stick that I use is a skewer. It's not a toothpick. It works great as a toothpick, by the way, and I've used them as toothpicks before. But you can buy a whole bag of these. I actually bought them off of Amazon, but you can get them at the grocery store. Anything you skew brochettes or glue together, whatever, they're good for that. And so I use them often for doing different things like this. They're just throwaways. Sometimes when I have a screw hole that needs to be filled in, I'll take this and I'll dab some glue down in the old screw hole that's the threads have been wiped out, and so the screw won't hold anymore. And I'll just drive this down in here with some glue on it, and I may have to drive 2 or 3 down in there. And the bamboo is hard enough and stiff enough to where you don't have to worry about breaking it. But that works great as a wood filler for a hole. And once it gets dry, again, you can take a little saw it off, and then take this to chisel it down, and you've got a perfect hole to drill a new pilot hole in and screw something back together. So good uses for these tools in all cases. Okay, so I think I'm going to do a little bit of sanding on this now to see how that goes. And let me get my 220 grit sandpaper. And the reason I'm not starting with 150 is that I use the 80 to get this, so the 120 is a nice step up from there. I'm being very gentle here before I start getting heavier. Getting harder. I don't want to leave a stain behind, which there is kind of one right now. What I may do here is try to go after this from a different side and peel back some of this that excess right there. Okay, let me go blow it with the blower, and then we'll take a look at it real quick. I'm going to blow it softly or from a distance. And maybe this will dry darker, but it was nice and dark before I sanded it. So now I've got pieces of oak sanded and stuck on the top. I probably should have waited for it to completely dry before I did anything, but that's good enough for the bottom of this box, and we'll go with that. So the way this works is I've already cut this, not to size, I've cut it slightly oversized. I think I'm going to put this on the bottom. That's the smaller hole, and put this inside the box so you can see inside there, because it has some interesting features. Well, maybe that means I need to put it on the other side. So if you turn the box up and look at it, yep, I think that's the best. This will go on the inside, because actually there'll be a tray going on top of this. And I've decided not to do any flocking on the bottom of this, because it's just going to hold pencils and so forth. But when I build a tray on the inside, I may put flocking inside that. I hope I've got time to build a tray, that is. And then of course this is going to be the top that goes down, that needs to fit down inside here. But the way I'm going to glue this bottom up to here is just to mount it just completely on the bottom. That's a long grain to long grain gluing, and that's always gives you good adherence on gluing. It's when you try to join edge grain that you run into problems and need to strengthen those things some kind of way. So this, and also off camera, took the liberty of putting the little joiner on 1/28th of an inch. That's a tiny, that's less than a 64th, half of a 32nd is a 64th, half of a 64th is 1/28th. And that is just a very, very fine piece. And I ran it across the joiner just to make sure the bottom had no high spots all the way around. And that came across there just fine. I did the same thing with the top too, by the way. That was just an experiment that I wasn't sure was going to work on the side. But you see that the it's going to be proud. This edge is going to be proud all the way around this. So I'll be able to use a bit in my router table over there to trim the edge all the way around, so it'll be flush with the side right here. There's a ball bearing bit that does that, that trims that side. So what I'll have to do is glue such that you know what, I really should finish the insides of this box first. That way I don't have to try to finish in here. I can do it in the open like this. So I think I just made that decision, that executive decision. So enough said about this part. I'm going to turn the cameras off again, and I'll come back and show you how I finish this box. I've got to decide on whether it's linseed oil or walnut oil or whatever, and it probably means that I'm going to have to let it sit overnight. It does also mean that if I finish the bottom like this, that I've got to avoid having any finish along this bottom edge. And I can just sand that off if that's a big deal. But also on this, so that if the bottom's got a finish on it and I glue this to it, I've got anywhere the glue touches, I need it to be wood and not finish. So I've got a tool that I haven't tried yet. I bought it sometime back. This is a little file tool. It's got a file on here, and you can stick it out to whatever width you want. And then you can come in and kind of rub that side, and it'll take the finish off around, all the way around like that. And you can take just that edge off, and the glue will work just fine at that point. And so I'll probably give that a try too. So we'll finish this video up in a few seconds from now, but it may be a day from now before I actually do some more videoing for that next part that's coming up in a few seconds. So be sure to click like, subscribe, and the bell to be reminded of videos when I publish them. I just published a couple of them this morning. They should be available out there, and that's on gluing up the miter boxes and things like that. Anyway, and shooting the miters on the boards and so forth, those should already be out there. This is a long project, and for such a little box, it sure is a lot of work going into it. But I'm using a lot of techniques that I think they're important for young kids to learn how to use, and that's my grandchildren and anybody else that's interested in doing that kind of thing. So, talk to you later. Click that like button if you like this video, and click subscribe if you will. That'll help us out. And the bell, well, if you click that, it'll notify you of any new videos coming in. So thanks a lot. Talk to you later.